Hello, I am Ignace Aleya from ToleratedCinematics.com, and today I'm starting a new series called Branding Your Name. And whether you're a freelancer, a company, or a YouTuber, or whatever it is you do, branding yourself is really important nowadays. And it's really important to brand yourself online, but it's also really important to brand yourself offline. And that's why I'm making this tutorial on how to create a business card in Photoshop. For me, a business card is really important. It shows off that kind of professionalism. If you have a business card on you, it just shows that you're really serious about what you do. And of course, some people will just take it and throw it away immediately, but you don't have to care about that. It's just giving that card just means that you're serious. And for people that want to get your information, that you can give it quickly, it also shows them that you're organized and structured. So it's really important to actually have business cards on you if you're doing something in the professional area. So with no further ado, let's get started. I will create a new file here in Photoshop. I will make this a landscape mode, and I will use millimeters because I'm from Belgium, which is Europe. And I'm going to rename this to business card, which means that we work with the metric system. So a business card is 85 at 55 millimeters, but currently I'm going to set this at 79 and 49, which means 6 millimeters less than the actual size, but I will explain in a minute why we do that. Resolution should be 300 dpi and a color mode of CMYK, which is the color mode for print. So yeah. That being said, everything is set. Let's create our new file. The first thing that I will do is hold Ctrl and press R on the keyboard, which is going to show my rulers here. If I click on here and drag towards the bottom, it's going to give me guidelines, and I'm going to add my guidelines here on every edge of my canvas. Once I've done that, I will go to Image, Canvas Size, and I will change my width here to also millimeters. We'll change this to the actual size. So the width should be 85 and the height should be 55, and I will click OK. Then I will again make some guidelines, and the reason why I've done the first guidelines is actually just if you create something, if you add some text or a logo, just make sure you don't pass these boundaries. Just make sure it's inside here, and yeah, this is just going to be part of the design, part of the business card, but you just want some margin from the sides to have that. And the reason why we are adding new guidelines actually is to do another set of canvas size, go to millimeters and add like 91 and 61 and click OK. And that's again 6 millimeters, 3 millimeters on each side. And this is going to be our our leak. So if you're designing something and you're going to print this out, we're going to cut it on this line here. But yeah, sometimes you just make a little bit of a mistake and then it's going to cut like so, and then you will still have the design. So make sure you just design it this way. Okay, so we have our layers here. The first thing that we'll do is go to into my colors. I will double click here and go to a blue color and pick a dark desaturated blue. Well, this is my opinion for my design, so let's do that. I will click OK, hold Alt and press backspace to fill in my background. For now, I will just hold Control and press the dot comma. That's this one here. That will just get rid of my guidelines for now, so I can just concentrate on the actual design. I will create my logo, so I will click on my text tool. I will keep it simplistic, and also really important to keep everything very simplistic. If you go online and you search on Google for business cards, you're going to see a bunch of business cards with these shapes and these reflections that they're faking in Photoshop, and it does show off that you know the skills of Photoshop, but it does not show off that you have the skills of a great graphic designer, because simplistic just shows so much more. It's like, don't show off with all your if it's a nice and clean business cards, is also going to show off that you are professional, but just don't overdo it. A lot of people tend to overdo it at first, but yeah, just try to keep it simplistic. So we'll click on my text tool, click here, and I will just enter tolerated, and of course I will Control A to select everything and make this white. Also, something very important that I found out the hard way is when I started and made my first business card, I was really proud of the design, but I wanted to print it out and I wanted to save a little bit on the money for the print quality actually. And I took like the lowest quality print, which means it doesn't weight much, which means you will get a paper which will be well printed, but it's not going to feel very professional. And I didn't really notice it at first because I never really saw a lot of business cards. But if you're going to hand them out to professionals and they get your business cards and it's really sloppy, or it's well really thin, they can bend it all the ways. It's just not professional. Just try to find some thick business cards. Nobody told me at first, so I think some people might really appreciate this. But if you have thick business cards, they're going to look so much more professional, and of course they're going to cost a little bit more, but they are so worth it, and you're just going to come along a lot more professional. Okay, so I have my text here. I will go and I'll click Control T, T and then Control A to select everything. Go into my character settings here, and I will pick the font Aleya. Go for a bold font. I'm going to zero this out, or actually just put this at 100, so the spacing between the text, and make it a little bit bigger. Not that big, of course, something like this. Okay, so I have my text. I will, at the end of my text, also I'm setting this at all caps, which means that they're all caps, and I will just add a dot to the end, just as a design choice. We'll pick my selection tool, also hold Control, press A on the keyboard, and then just center it out, clicking this and this. That's going to center out my layer along, looking at the edges of my canvas, or of my selection actually. So I have my text right here. I'm going to put it a little bit more towards the top, and then I'm going to click on my shape here, the rectangle tool. I'm going to select a no stroke, and I will select a fill of a nice red color. So I will go to my red color here, and I will pick like a little bit desaturated and a little bit darker red. Click OK, and then I will just do something like this, which could look pretty cool, I guess, or maybe put it on top here, something like so, and I will release it. Also Control A and then just press V on the keyboard, which is this key, well, the hotkey to get my selection key, and then I will just center this out and just move it up like so, and put it behind my text and the layers, and that will give me something like this offset kind of color, kind of rectangle. But I think it looks cool, so I'm going to keep it this way. And then of course we have tolerated, but we also have cinematics. So I'm going to pick my text tool, click here again, and enter cinematics. Control A to select my text, go back to the character style, and then here I'm going to change it to a light font. But just make sure, like I also have hairline, and it's going to be really thin, and just make sure that the thinner you go, the more chance you have on glitches while printing. So really thin is not really advised, so go for light, and this could be like a minimum for print, depending on the quality of the manufacturer, of course, but just to be sure, if it's your first time working with them, just make sure that you don't go really thin. For the text, I'm going to keep it like so. Let's go for a smaller font, something like 9, and then I'm going to space it out like 1,000 here. And that just looks cool. I think it looks cool, so I'm going to keep it that way. Click on my selection tool and just position it right over here. Then I will again pick my rectangle tool, and the reason why I put this at red is just to give some color to that card. So I wanted to keep it simplistic, but just a little bit of color just does so much, and it just brings everything to life. So I'm going to click on my rectangle here, just add something like this, like a small stroke of this red. I'm going to put it like right over here, and then just hold Control and press J on the keyboard, and that's going to duplicate my layer. You can also duplicate it by just dragging it into a new layer, and that's going to duplicate it as well. I'm going to undo that, so I just have 2 of these. I'm going to drag this down holding Shift, and that way we have one here as well. And then I'm going to select all of these and also Control J and move them to the right. Well, click and Shift to the right. And I think this looks kind of cool. So I'm going to select all of these together with my text and then reposition them the way I want them to be. Maybe make it a little bit smaller. So the way to make it smaller is holding Control and pressing T on the keyboard to get my free transform, or go to edit, transform, I suppose. Nope. Yeah, free transform. But yeah, just try to find or figure out the hotkeys. It's so much easier to work with. So we have this subtitle. I'm going to drag everything here into a new folder. So I group everything from my cinematics. So this is my subtitle, for example. And this would be my logo. So I'm going to hold Control, select both of these layers, and drag them into a new group here and rename this to logo. Double click here and logo. Okay, there we go. Drag my subtitle a little bit more towards my title itself. And now we have a whole logo like so. So I'm going to select both of these and also put them in a folder and rename this logo. I do realize that my actual logo is a little bit smaller than my subtitle, so I want it to be the same size. So I'll open up my group, click on the logo, Control T, and make it just a little bit bigger. And there we go. And with the arrows, you can also reposition it up a little bit if you want to. And there we go. So now I have something like this, which looks pretty cool, actually. I'm going to close my group. So now we have our logo and my background, and that's it. We don't have anything else. So let's go to the brush settings and go to Window, Brush. And here we want to set some things for the brush tip shape. We want a size of 1 pixel, a hardness of 100, and a spacing as low as I think something like 10% could work. So we'll keep it at 10%. And then we're going to pick our pen tool. And now we're going to create a new layer by clicking here. And now we're going to rename this to stripes. And I'm going to do something abstract. So it's just something freestyle. Just click and do something like this. Just see for the result first. Just make sure you're using straight lines here and keep on doing this until the entire canvas is filled with lines. Okay, something like this, and I'm going to make sure that my front color, my foreground color is white. Click OK, and then I'm going to right click and go stroke, brush, and just make sure simulate pressure is unselected and click OK. Right click, delete the path, or just go into the path and just deselect it, and then lower the opacity something like 3. And now we have some nice stripes in the background, of course, put it behind or below the logo in the layers. And now we have something like this, which looks kind of nice and abstract, so it gives it a little bit more detail, and it's still simplistic. So that's what I'm trying to say. If you're a designer and you want to have detail, like detail shows off that something becomes more, it just looks a little bit more dynamic, I suppose. But if we're going to just don't exaggerate with things. So the more subtle you do something, the better it can look like. If you're watching a movie for visual effects artists, if you don't see that it's actually faked, those are the best effects because you don't really realize it. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so this is our front page. I'm going to double click on my background and then just hit enter, which will unlock this. Hold shift and select everything and then just drag it into a new group, or hit Control G on the keyboard and rename this to front part. Then I'm going to create a new layer on top of this background. You don't have to rename everything because it's quite small, but it's just a good habit to actually do. And I will go and pick a nice light gray color. I don't really like to use the actual white and black colors, just a personal preference, but actually these colors are very harsh. So of course for text you can use white, but for like a complete background I tend to use a little bit of light gray if I want to use white. So now I have my background here. What do we want for information? That depends on whatever you want to do as a business. For me, for example, it's not important to show my locations. For some businesses, it's important to know where it is. So for me, it's important to have my name on it. You can actually do your function, your phone number, email address, and for example, your website. So let's get started. I will click on my text tool and enter my name. Hit Control A, and I will pick the same red color actually. So I'm going to head over to my swatches. So Windows swatches, which will be, let me see here. Right here, I have my swatches, and I will just make sure that my text is that red color that we used before. And there we go. So now I have my red text. I will press T on the keyboard, select my text again, back into character, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. So here it's important to have these guides, and But yeah, we'll do this first. So go into text, maybe make it like 12, something like that. Make it 0. I'm making this bold because your name is important. You want them to see it, and it should be very visible. Okay, so I'm going to put my name, for example, right here, and just open up your guidelines, and right here you can see where you can actually put it. So I'm going to put my name, for example, right here, or actually I'm going to center it out, put it right here, and yeah, deselect my guidelines again, and I'm going to click on that, Ctrl J to duplicate my text layer, and you can see I duplicated it. I will click and shift drag it below and press T on the keyboard to have my text tool again, double click, and I will write my function, so founder and project manager, for example. And I will select everything, make this something like 8, and space it out like 100, and make it, for example, that same blue, or yeah, just doesn't really matter that much. I know it's around here, this color. We'll pick it like so, and make this a regular. Okay, so now we have our function and our name. So now what do we want more is our website, our email address, and our phone number. And that's where this really nice website comes in handy. I will search it right here. The link will be in the description. It's called Flat Icon right here. And if we search, for example, for a hyperlink, we can find something like so. And if we click on something that we like, for example, let's see this one, we can download the PNG, SVG, EPS, or PSD. I like to work with SVG, which means vector based, and then just click on it, choose a color, but it doesn't matter because we are going to change it in Photoshop anyway, or just pick white. I will use white actually. And then click on the download button. And yeah, of course, for the free ones, you do have to actually credit the authors all the time. So if you're using it online for whatever reason you're using them, so but you can find a lot of cool things like hyperlink, phone. I used this one, and then for my email, let's didn't matter. This one, for example, also really cool. So I'm going to close this down. I already have I will drag them all together in Photoshop and then hit return, and that's going to import everything as a smart object. I'm going to click on everything, hold shift and select everything, so you can see that everything, all these icons are selected. Hold Control and press T on the keyboard to reveal the transform tool, and then I'm going to hold shift and hold Alt and then just drag them in like so. Hit enter. And now I'm going to select here a ellipse tool, and I'm going to shift drag a circle with the same red color as you can see right here. And I'm going to duplicate that one also, Ctrl J, so 3 times. And I'm going to put each icon above that layer. So we have an ellipse, an icon, ellipse, icon, ellipse, icon. Okay, so now it's important to actually group these together. So select 2, Ctrl J, select 2, Ctrl J, select 2, Ctrl J. You can rename them if you want to. So now what I will do is actually put one over here, for example, and Control click on the thumbnail. That's going to select the ellipse itself. And now if we're going to click on our phone, we're going here and we click on align, center. It's going to center it in our ellipse tool. And I can see that my ellipses are actually rather small. So I'm going to click on all my ellipses again, holding Control, press Control T and just make them a little bit bigger. Something like this, and hit enter. And then we're going to redo that process. So Control click on the thumbnail, go to the phone, and then just center this out. And this looks a little bit better. Do the same thing for this one. Click on the envelope and just do it again. And now we can move this group out of this. Also Control click on this one and center our hyperlink. So this is a hyperlink, our mail, and our phone. I'm going to select all of these, and I'm going to click on this icon, which is going to center them out over a linear line here, vertically. And then right here we can actually make sure that they're aligned with this button, that they are aligned. They have the same spacing in between. So I'm going to reposition them, pick my guides to see if I'm okay. and then you can do some cool stuff. So put this on the side, Control T to make it maybe smaller, hold Shift and Alt to make it a little bit smaller this way. And if you want, for example, this to be a little bit more on top, you can select all of them again and then just space them out again, and that's going to recenter everything. So pick your guides and see to actually position them like so. Okay, undo my guides, and I'm going to pick my text tool again and enter my website. So that's toleratedcinematics.com. Align it to the left and reposition it with the selection tool. Sometimes it's also handy to actually zoom out and hold a existing business card to the screen to actually compare it with sizes. So if the text isn't too big or too small, most of the time it's too small. So like this could work. Maybe it should be a little bit bigger, like the title. So I'm going to click on my title and just hold Control and then Shift Alt and just drag it out a little bit. There we go. So yeah, that way it's an easy way to actually visually see how it's going to look. Control J for the text of my website here. Drag it below, and then yeah, enter my email address, so info@tolerated.be for example, and then just enter your phone number, which of course I'm not going to, like, is this the standard for America? I don't know. And then just enter something. Okay, so again, you can do the same thing for your text, select all your text and just center them out together, and then just reposition them like so. And yeah, actually that's it. You can select all of these together with your text, so the icons and your text, and group them, and hold Control A on the keyboard to actually center them like so if you want to. Actually, I want them to be a little bit closer together, so what you can do is actually move this one down a little bit, and then just click on everything. Click on the icons first, center them together, and then the text, center them together. And there we go. So now we have something like this. Move this a little bit more to the left, maybe a little bit more up. We have something, yeah, that looks pretty cool. We can actually go back into our front part and duplicate these stripes, Control J, put them above the background here, go into the color, so double click here, and go to color, black, or just that dark blue color. Click OK and OK, and just increase the opacity to like 7 maybe. It's going to be a little bit harder to see on white, so there we go, maybe even 10. Yeah, it's going to always look different when you print it out. So, well, like these lines are going to be very, very hard to see depending on the quality again of the printer. So, just yeah, keep that in mind if you're making something like this. Like one thing that we could do last is make a new layer. Go to our rectangle tool and make like a thin stripe in between our icons like so. This is going to like simulate that everything is connected together, and that's actually the idea behind the background for me, that everything is connected together as a marketing team. For example, all these lines connect to each other, and that was the idea how I came to actually do abstract lines in the background. So that's it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a like and also subscribe to the channel for more. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.